Hello guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for tuning in, and if you're new here, please don't forget to click on the subscribe button, and also don't forget to like, share and comment, and click on the notification bell so that you get a notification whenever we post a new one. So let's get started. Alright, so today is yet another Monday, and welcome back to our informative Mondays. In today's topic, I am going to talk about finding an apartment in Germany. So this is a topic that, wow, finding an apartment is really difficult. Whenever you talk about it with anyone anywhere in Germany, they'll always tell you how difficult it is to find a new apartment. And for me today, in today's topic, I'm going to just talk about my own personal experience, because I have successfully managed to live in 5 different apartments in Germany in a period of 5 years. Okay, so yeah, that gives me a little bit of experience. So I'm just going to talk about my own personal experience. So the first thing that I would like to talk about is finding an apartment is very difficult. Yes, so the first thing that you need are prayers, girlfriend. You need to pray. Yeah, you need to pray and fast, because if you don't do that, okay, jokes aside, back into serious business. Okay, so finding an apartment is really difficult, and for me, I think I'm going to talk about 3 important things that you have to really first of all look at before you start looking for an apartment. So the first thing that I noticed is so for this one, I'm not saying that it is not possible, but I just found out it's kind of difficult if you do not have a job, if you are still relying on government money. I think it's kind of difficult to find an apartment. And this is only because I remember the other time I was helping a friend to find an apartment, and I was leaving my apartment and I wanted to leave the apartment for her. And then the landlord just asked me if she's working, and I said no, she's getting money from the government. And for one reason or the other, he just started going round and round like the wheels on the bus, and he just started bumping up and down, and in the end he didn't give the lady the apartment. But when I found someone who had their own income, it was as easy as ABC, and then she got the apartment. And whenever I am looking for an apartment, they always ask the first question, are you getting your own money or you're under government money? And so I heard that it is kind of difficult for you to find an apartment if you're still under the government money. So I'm not saying don't look for an apartment, but you should just know that it's going to be a little bit tricky for you. Okay, so number 2 is if you now have your own apartment income. The one thing that I've seen that you have to look at your income, and you have to look at the rent amount that you are willing to pay, because I also noticed that I also read that they usually want the rent amount to be like a third of the money that you are earning. So if you want if your apartment is going to be 500 euros, then you must be earning at least 1,500 euros. So it's really important also that you check your income and the rent of the house that you're going to be looking for, because if you just go and you apply for a house that is expensive and yet your income is lower, they might not give it to you, so you'll be just wasting your time. So you also have to look at your income and also the rent amount, so that you don't waste your time applying for apartments that you might not even get. All right, so after that, the other thing that you have to also be very careful about is your Schufa. And also this does not also apply to all the landlords. Like sometimes, like for example, when we moved to this apartment, I found out that they didn't ask for it. We had it ready for them, but they just didn't ask for it. So you might be lucky that you find a landlord that will not ask for it, or maybe they just forget, I don't know. But you just have all the houses that we ever applied for, they wanted the shufa and they wanted it to be good. So you have to make sure that if you know that you're going to be looking for an apartment in the next coming days, avoid buying things on credit. Just avoid those shufa problems, so that your shufa is good before you go and you apply for the apartment. And then the other tip also that I would give is, if you are looking for an apartment in Germany, if you are living in a city, I would advise also that if it's your first time looking for an apartment and you really need it as soon as possible, my advice is also try and look a little bit on the outskirts, not in the city center, because finding an apartment in the city center the demand in the city is so high. So the probability of you getting one is really difficult. And so this is one of the tips that I'm going to tell you from our own experience. Like our very first apartment in Germany, that was my husband. I was not yet here, but it was on the outskirts. If you know, in Berlin, we were staying in Marzahn. So Marzahn is kind of on the outskirts of Berlin, but it was not difficult for us to find that apartment. My husband told me that when he went for the viewing of the apartment, he was the only one who was there. Why? Because no one wants to stay in the outskirts. It was not like in the outskirts. It was a very good location, but just because it was far away from the Hauptbahnhof, it was easier for us. So I would advise that if you really feel like it's an emergency that you get one, you can also try and find a little bit on the outskirts. It might be easier for you to get an apartment there. And the other tip that I would like to give you is, you get whatever apartment that you okay, the first thing is, make sure that you look for an apartment where the landlord has got a lot of apartments. That way, now the trick is, you just get, even if it's a very small apartment, smaller than what you want, or maybe too big for you, just get whatever it is. Or you just don't like the apartment because of A, B, or C, just take that apartment. And then when you are in, then you can talk to your landlord and say, oh, I have this apartment, but I don't like it because of ABC. So whenever you get a better apartment for me, please holla at me. And for this now to work, you have to be a good tenant. Pay your rent on time. Be nice. Call your landlord and say, good morning, how are you? Just be nice, and then they will know that you are a nice tenant. So whenever they have any opening. So like I was saying, for this trick to work, you have to for this trick to work, you have to be a nice tenant, and so that your landlord will not hesitate to give you another apartment. Otherwise, they would want to be sending you out if you're being naughty. Okay, so this can we use this trick in two times, so I really know that it works. The first time, it was when we were in Berlin. We were living in a 1-bedroom apartment, and then Amanda was growing bigger and we wanted a 2-bedroom apartment. So we now called our landlord and we said, oh, now this apartment is small for us, can we have another one? And he was like, oh, you are so lucky because there's an apartment on your next door. We're staying on 304. And then he's like, there's an apartment on 302. So we just moved. We didn't even need a van. We just used some boys who came to help us, and we moved. And we also did that with this apartment also. When we came, if you still remember, before, we were staying in the attic, and the apartment was so hot. In the attic, it's so hot. There was no balcony, there was no bathtub. It was not what we wanted, but because when we were looking, it was the only option that we had, so we just had to take it. And immediately we moved in. After 5-6 months, we now spoke to our landlord. We're like, if you get something, please tell us. Of course, for this one, it took us a little bit longer. I think it took about 4-5 months before we could get another apartment, but it was worth waiting for, because in the end we got a nice apartment that we like. Okay, so this can be also a trick that you can use. Just get to whatever apartment that you get, and then you can now talk to your landlord so that you can switch apartments. And then the other one is the trick that we used when we moved from Berlin to Hamburg. So this one now is use Facebook, Wiki gesucht, and there are Immobilien Scout, all those kinds of ways. Okay, so with this one now, the good thing about this, okay, what you have to know when you're using this trick is you are most likely to find someone who wants someone who is going to take over the apartment and some properties. Because, like, for example, I told you in another video how it's so stressful to get rid of furniture here in Germany. So someone might be moving out, and then they make a deal with their landlord, like, I want to leave some of the things, so can you allow me to look for someone who will now agree with me that I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna sell my furniture to them, and then you will now give them the apartment. So it will be like a condition, like, if you want the apartment, you must take it as it is. Okay, so this is like one of the things that you can use, but you must also save some more money, some extra money for the property. Like, you can pay from 500 to 4,000. I remember my husband told me that his friend from work once had to pay like 4,500 just for the furniture. So this is also one trick that you can use, but for this one you really have to save some extra money. And that also brings us to another thing that you have to also know when you're looking for an apartment in Germany. That is the issue of deposit, the caution. So some landlords can say, okay, because the caution is supposed to be 3 times your rent amount. So some landlords can say, okay, you can pay this in 3 different installments. But I remember when we moved to this apartment, the landlord was like, you have to pay the deposit in full before we can sign the contract. So you have to have the deposit ready, so that you, whenever you just get an apartment, you're not going to lose it because you couldn't pay the deposit. Because we tried to negotiate, they're like, no negotiations, we just need the money. If there's no money, then there's no contract. So this is also one thing that you also have to really think about when you want to find an apartment in Germany, the issue of the contract, the issue of the deposit. So just to round it off, 3 important things to note is the deposit, number 1, your schufa, and your income. You have to check how much you are earning and how much rent you are willing to be paying. So these are very, very important. They will help you to get higher scores for you to get the apartment, all right? And also how to get the apartment. Try to find on the outskirts. Try to find anything that you get, even if you don't like it. As long as the landlord has many apartments, you can always talk to your landlord and then you switch apartments. And also you can also try to go on Wiki gesucht or Immobilien something. I would look for the name, or even on eBay, or anywhere you can get an apartment. But in most cases you will have to be taking the apartment as it is, and you might have to pay more money to buy the furniture that you might not need. So this is like, if you are someone maybe who is coming in from somewhere and you don't have your own furniture, this might be a good move for you. But if you're now someone who already have their own furniture, this might not really work for you. But if you really want the apartment, you can just decide to say, okay, if it's maybe they say you have to pay like 500, 800 euros for the furniture, you might just decide to say, okay, I'll take the furniture and then I can get rid of it myself. Because if you think of it in this way, if you have to pay an agent, you're gonna have to pay an arm and a leg for you to get that service. So it's your choice. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope this video was informative enough for you. For any video that you want me to talk about, please feel free to put in the comment section, and also don't forget to like, comment, and share, and subscribe. See you next time.